very much for making the effort. Over the next as we call it 2 hours, we want to do a number of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been happening in the last year and what we're trying to do at the moment. And then, not Bill, but Councillor Jeremy Moulton has come along, and he wants to say a little bit about how he sees the position of the City Council. That's actually particularly important, as I will explain at the moment. And then we've got Zach, a local dentist, who's going to talk a little bit about why he's against water fluoridation and his position. And that's going to be followed by Brian Hooper, who last year entertained us at our meeting, in fact a year ago last March, this March, with some good songs and some good anti-fluoridation songs. We've got refreshments and biscuits and a very nice little cake, actually, I saw in the kitchen. And then at the very end, we have to do something very short and formal in terms of just re-electing a committee and a chairman and those kind of warnings. If you don't want to stay for that, if you're going to do it in the last kind of 10 minutes, that's fine. If you want to stay, of course, you'll be very, very welcome. So that's what we're doing this afternoon. Most importantly, though, it's also a chance to ask questions, to talk to people who've been involved, members of the committee around, who've been involved in the campaign, and use the opportunity also to express your own views and your own feelings. What I will be doing just over the next few minutes is talk about things that we hope you can do, and there is some information around on the tables at the back which gives some kind of information about who to complain to, how to complain, where to complain. There's some sheets with addresses that you can use, websites. So, hopefully this afternoon we can answer questions, give information, and also have a fairly interesting and informal and, more importantly, friendly time during the next 2 hours. So, once again, welcome. I'm really pleased to see so many people here. It is, in a sense, tantamount to the fact that there is a lot of local anger about not only water fluoridation, but also the way that the decision has been taken by the Strategic Health Authority, which seems to completely ignore local opinion. And I think that's absolutely clear. It's been made more clear with the recent judicial review, which was undertaken by a local resident in Southampton, where the judge very, in a sense, said, well, the way that the law is written means that the SHA can ignore local opinion. It doesn't have to take account of anybody's opinion, really. It makes its own decision based on its own views and doesn't need to account. So it doesn't matter that 72% of the people who responded were against it. It doesn't matter if local councils were against it. It doesn't matter if local MPs, it doesn't matter if local people wrote in and were against it. If they think it's the right thing to do, they can actually do it. They're quite entitled to go ahead and do this based on their own assessment of the arguments. And so that's an important, really important thing which we need to tackle, and that can only be tackled by tackling MPs and trying to change the current legislation which gives the power to strategic health authorities to do this. But more importantly, the same power is likely to be passed on in a year's time to local authorities. Exactly the same situation. The Strategic Health Authority is going to be abolished. Well, that's good news as far as we're concerned. We're very glad to see the back of them perhaps when it comes down to this particular decision. But the point is that the same powers are going to be passed on to local authorities. Now, that's fine. Hampshire County Council will take responsibility for the area outside of the city, and you know that Hampshire are very, very firmly against water fluoridation. They have a very, very good review of the evidence and local opinion, and they very clearly voted unanimously not to go ahead with water fluoridation. That's also the opinion of Eastleigh District Council, Totton Council, New Forest Council, and Thames Valley Council. Our own current council, Southampton City Council, during the consultation in 2008, actually voted to endorse water fluoridation. It actually voted to support the fluoridation of the city's water supply. And that actually still stands. We were pleased, obviously, that last year that there was a motion brought by Councillor Moulton and Councillor Smith, which criticised the lack of public consultation around water fluoridation, said that before any scheme is imposed, I think I'm right in saying that you would require a referendum of local people. However, their endorsement of water fluoridation in the city, as proposed in the schemes put forward by the Strategic Council, still stands. I think that's something that we would want to change. Because in 12 months' time, when the city has the responsibility for water fluoridation and public health, and more importantly, we'll have the officers from the NHS who have been pushing water fluoridation employed within the City Council, then we need to actually tackle them head on about this. And we have now just launched a new petition. We've had a very good petition, we had 15,000 signatures in 2009, which we took up to 10 Downing Street. But now we're launching a new petition to actually ask the Council to reconsider its position on water fluoridation. Now that petition has been launched under the New Communities Bill, and it is online at the City Council. If you go onto the City Council website, and look at the petition part of it, you will see an online petition on water fluoridation. And what we need is at least 2,000 or 3,000 signatures. But we recognise that everybody is not online and on the web and computer savvy, so we also have paper versions of the same petition which you can sign here today. More importantly, if you want to take a sheet away and collect the other 19 signatures on the sheet, then that would be good. The petition lasts for 3 months. Now, if you collect sufficient signatures, which I'm confident, I think that we will, then actually the Council will have to at least debate the petition. And I think that's quite important that we keep this issue alive in front of the Council, and actually we get the Council to rethink its position around water fluoridation. So that's the kind of big thing that we're doing at the moment. And we feel we also need to do this because whilst there is an appeal against the judicial review, it is not guaranteed that that appeal will be allowed to go ahead. The whole way that the kind of legal process means that the appeal is assessed to see whether it will be heard or not. And obviously, we don't know whether that's going to happen or not. So at the moment, I think the petition of making sure that we get the City Council to keep this up on their agenda is really, really important. So there's information about that at the back. There's information that we'll be sending out to those on Bill Edmonds' marvellous email list. We received all the emails from Bill Ed. Bill Ed's the gentleman standing here on the left. It will also come out on that as well, so that you'll be able to, if you've got access to the internet, you'll be able to print one off and use it. But they must be sent back to us, and there's an address on the bottom by the 17th of June. But you can sign the online one, but you can't sign both. Alright? So if you sign both, one of them's just going to get crossed off. So either sign the online or sign the online. But don't do both. Okay, so that's the big news. Why is it still important? Well, it's still important because, believe it or not, Southampton is still the place that everybody in the UK, and actually to a certain extent in other countries, is still watching to see whether water fluoridation goes into place within the city. Even this week, in fact maybe today, there are calls to extend water fluoridation to other parts of the country. Most recently now to Wales, but certainly other places like Bristol, the northwest Manchester are looking to see if things cannot be stopped in Southampton, then they will be pushing on the parts. So yes, it's our fight here, but it's also something which is being watched in other places. But we should take, kind of be hopeful in some ways, because just in the last 12 months, 2 million people in Canada have had water fluoridation stopped. So major cities like Calgary have over 1 million people. In Gatineau, which is in Quebec, following Quebec City, the councils actually voted to stop water fluoridation. And the main reasons they voted to stop it are concerns about health and also about the imposition of water fluoridation fluoridation on people who don't have a decision about it. And it's very important that we recognise that there's two grounds. There is the thing that they're concerned about the health implications, as well as the kind of liberty and ethical implications of water fluoridation. And even now, in the USA, the kind of birthplace of water fluoridation, the government is finally, after 5 years, considering the information that was put to them in the National Research Review, which looked at water fluoridation and the problems associated with water fluoridation. Just to give you a flavour, in the States, 40% of children have dental fluorosis. It's an enormous number, it's literally an epidemic. And that is what will happen if you put water fluoridation. We know in this country, I mean, it's all very well, the government saying that they need to do research on dental fluorosis and they can use Southampton. But actually, there have been 2 studies in the UK, one in the West Midlands and one in Newcastle. In Newcastle, 50% of the children had dental fluorosis, 6 times as many as in the non-fluoridated part of Newcastle. And in the West Midlands, something like a third, 25% of children have dental fluorosis. So we absolutely know what those problems associated with water fluoridation are. And what we don't really understand is why that kind of evidence is completely ignored by those who want to force water fluoridation on us. So in some cases we need to keep this fight up. We need to keep it up in Southampton. And it's really important. The SHA has never, not even said they will not put water fluoridation into practice. So if there's no appeal, they actually have the legal right now to impose water fluoridation. And they can start this process tomorrow. They don't, the fact they're going to be abolished, in 9 months or a year's time, they can still do it. If the appeal doesn't go ahead, they actually have the legal right to impose water fluoridation on the city and surrounding areas. And I think, we have got to keep the pressure on, and we've got to work with those councils and MPs who will support us and keep the pressure on the Strategic Health Authority as well. But in the long term, we also need to get a clear message to the City Council that we do not want water fluoridation in Southampton, that it's not going to work, that it's not beneficial, and it's not ethical to do so. And I think that's a really important message that we need to push across as well. So as a campaign group, we're sustained by the support that we get from all of you. And it's really good that we do get this kind of level of support. We get many more offers of help now, which is really helpful. So if we're trying to get things like petitions, or for example, when Professor Connick came and talked in September, numbers of people went out and leafleted for us, and we got over 100 people to Paul's talk. And that's how we're sustained. We're sustained partly by your anger and disbelief perhaps in what's going on, but also with your help, and that's really grateful. And as a committee, we're really pleased that you are able to help us in that way. So that's kind of just a brief update where we are on the campaign. Please look at some of the information. I can certainly recommend, if you haven't seen it, to read the book written by Professors Connick, Beck and Midcombe. October Books are still very happy to order copies, and we've got some leaflets about it, or you can get it through Amazon as well. I mean, the other thing, if you want to get a book, you want to buy it, go into your local library and ask the library to get a copy. The more people that ask the local library to get a copy, the more likely they are to put a copy up in the library as well, which we can read. It's a good book. It is very scientific. It's got a lot of science in it, but it's done in a way that's actually very readable. You can pick the bits that you want to read, but it's an excellent book with lots of very good information. It covers the history of the science of water fluoridation. And there's a nice bit at the end which actually talks about the politics and the way the politics are done. So, if you haven't seen that, that's a really good thing to have a look at. And, it's a good book to buy, not exactly maybe bedtime reading, but certainly to get into. That's really all I want to say. Unless anyone has got any questions about things that we're doing